All right. Well, welcome to our summer lab for this year. I'm excited. I love intimate containers because I think there's more time. It allows for more just like rich discussion. So I sent this journal out purposely not too far ahead of time. A lot of what has been coming forward is more of, experiencing uh, these spaces. So before, let's see, let's do, well, before that, let's, one second. I have too many windows. I can't tell what I'm supposed to be doing now. Okay. So let's open our circle. I don't think all of you know each other. So just very briefly, just if we can go around, just share your name, where you're joining from, and then just very briefly, maybe one sentence, what made you say yes to this exploration this year? I will start with you, Jill. I'm going around my screen.
Okay, I'm Jill and Blackwell, and I'm from Fountain Hill. No, I'm not from here. I'm from Illinois, like a suburb of Chicago, but I'm living now in Fountain Hills, Arizona. And wow, I'm so excited. So I right now I just kind of feel like I'm more discerning and I can kind of tell when I want to do something, when my soul is like, yes, do that. And Carla, everything you offer, I'm like, my soul just says yes. So I want to, and I'm like, my human's very excited about it as well. So thank you. And also, I'm working on this as well, like the embodiment of the celestial initiation and the dragons communicating with them and my intuition and this everything you're talking about here. So thank you. It's like all coming together.
I love it. Thank you, thank you. Carla with a K, do you want to go next?
So I'm Carla with a K. Um, I've always felt and seen Carla as my spiritual teacher. It's pretty much the only person that I actually follow and take um, classes with because that's how I resonate the most. She was the one that put me into my path to the dragons too. And when I started, I had absolutely no perception of anything other than my human. So being with her, it's opened my gifts a little bit more, and that's exactly what I'm here, just to deepen my relationship with my intuition and my all my gifts. And yeah, that's it. Oh,
Thank
and
you.
I'm
Do
in
you want to
Northern California, by the way, an
Okay,
hour away from
awesome.
Carla. So far, yes.
Yeah. Before you moved elsewhere. Thank you, Carla. Betsy, how about you?
Hi everyone, I'm Betsy Torres. I've been working with Carla for, I think it's almost like 4 years now. It's been
Yeah,
like
been a while.
2022, 23. And and I'm also in the Celestial Initiation. I've been out of group containers. It's been a long time. I want to say over a year. And I think, over the past year, I've been really uh really just I kind of like stepped away from a lot of the spiritual practices because I really needed a lot of grounding and in my body and my day to day with my kids, and just being more present. um but what made me say yes is, yeah, finding that balance and coming back into, working in group containers again. And yeah, so just finding that balance of like the being grounded, but at the same time, you know, tuning in a safe space. I keep saying I need practice. Um, so I think this is perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Betsy. And you're in LA, right?
Yes.
Or somewhere near that, not LA specific. Thank you, Kat. Not last but not least, welcome. I think this is the first
Hey,
program you're in, but I know you've been in some of my
no,
journeys.
yeah. So okay, I'm like a newbie when it comes to this. I put them together. So my name is Kat. I was born in NYC, but I'm in Connecticut right now. Um, for me personally, I've found it such a treat to observe the collective shift. I'm one of like a big ass cog, you know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
everybody's on their own journey. So I just want to let you know, Carla, even though like I've been to some of your like offerings like this, which I think is super dope, I always read your emails. And what
Oh,
I
thank
find
you.
about these synchronicities is that it hits home for me when I read them. So when I talk about like collective shift, I think it's so dope to see everyone's journey because everybody's different. So this comes at an opportune time for me. You know, we're all on this. And it's funny because someone in my job today, and I feel compelled to share it. He's like, do you believe in spirituality? And I looked
Mm.
at him and I was like, it's not a belief. It's either you tapped in or you're not. It's either you want to be tapped in or you don't. And it's just like, I don't know. And it's us sharing our light that's gonna shift this world. And not to be too deep, but yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Oh, I love it. Thank you for saying that you read my email. Sometimes I wonder, like, who actually
I
like.
absolutely, well, because like I love words, it's hard for me to articulate things. So, but I love when I read words, like written word, somehow it like touches me different, you know? I don't know.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Well, welcome, you guys. Before we move into today's exploration, I wanted to share a little about how this lab came to be. And some of you were with me last summer for the remote viewing lab. And I love that experience. Those of us who were in it also had a lot of fun, which is how I like to structure these summer labs also. It's not just learning about yourself and expanding your consciousness, but also having fun while you're doing that. But one thing I was reminded, thinking back to last summer's lab, that yes, we discover so much through, direct experimentation, which is what this is. But I don't think maybe it's moving toward that when we think about especially the collective shifts where I don't think we talk enough about perception itself. Um, and in last summer's lab, through those experiments and all that, I don't think we actually went deep into perception. It's a different thing, and this isn't at all like last year's remote viewing lab, but something when I was building this and when I thought about what to focus on this year, because I held off for a while because I didn't energetically, I didn't feel I should repeat the same program as last year. But something kept um, becoming clear in my mind, and it's something I'm seeing also unfold in some of the other spaces that I've moved into since then, like in Sears Field Notes and Substack. Um, it's about how we observe the world around us. So as I was thinking about that, I found myself thinking about, not so much like can we perceive what's out of the ordinary, what's extraordinary to our senses, but how does our perception itself, like the act of perceiving, how does it unfold? And it can be a very subtle shift, but that changes everything. So I became fascinated really with the space between our observation, the point of our observation, and the point where we interpret what we're observing and perceiving. Because first we notice something, like have an impression or a feeling, or maybe we see a symbol, or there's a coincidence, some synchronicity that happens in our life. And almost immediately, our tendency is for our mind to begin explaining what it means, right? And I think that's maybe it's human nature, but so I was thinking, what if we slowed that process down? And what if we became more careful observers of not just what we're perceiving, but of perception itself? Um, and it's not so much to become more certain about what we're perceiving, but to become more discerning. And one of the things that's continuing to emerge more in even like the topics that I write about, the experiences that I've been writing about, especially the focus of, my Sears Field Notes space. You know, it's not rushing to conclusions, not rushing to find meaning in everything we see. Not that that's not important, but I'm finding value in slowing it down, if that makes sense. But the other thing I want to share also is I'm beginning to see, and many of you probably are noticing this also, and I'm not singling out the spiritual community, but that's where a lot of us operate right now. But I'm seeing where distortion is more evident, and it often begins not with what people are perceiving, but that with the or what we perceive, but with the conclusions that we attach to what we're perceiving. So that to me is not only relevant to our intuition, it's also relevant to our relationships in our lives, everyday lives, our communication, even, leadership and the stories that we tell ourselves, not just others. So I feel that that's very relevant to the times we're living in and the collective shift. So this summer, I felt that, I wanted to focus not so much on developing a particular ability, uh, because we all have it, but it's about cultivating a more mature relationship with our perception. And I think you'll find that um, what you seek to hone in yourself and your intuition becomes a byproduct of that when you cultivate a more mature relationship with your perception. So I wanted to share that and to just say that we're going to be investigating together. We're going to be comparing our experiences, not in the sense of one is right and one is not. But I just want to stress the importance of being curious and open, because maybe we'll surprise ourselves also in this lab throughout the summer. So one of my other wishes also is that we leave with better questions than we arrived with. So that's the spirit of this year's lab. So those of you who were in last year's, yeah, it's a little different, but I believe, or strongly feel it's also in step with what we're sensing with other things like how we connect with our guides. It's that shifting of the lens inward rather than seeking externally. Does that make sense? Does anybody um, have any comments on that? If not, I'll keep going. Okay. Okay, so that's I just wanted to set that tone. This is going to be a space for, shared inquiry. We're going to experiment, and most of all, we're going to be careful observers. So let's see. I have a page here on how to use this journal. I'll be sending out additional pages for each week as our lab progresses. This is the beginning point of this, and it might seem that it starts very simply, but that is intentional. I just want to share that. There's a purpose for that. All right, so let's see. What else I want to say? So I think the biggest thing also that I want to stress is that observation comes before interpretation. So the I'm calling them field investigations that we're going to be doing as we experiment is around, um, valuing that and how that can help you. So use the journal to, record what you observe, what you notice, whether during class, or during our breakout sessions, or just in your life that's there for you. And most importantly, be curious about what you perceive, and that can come in many ways. Um, Hopefully you can use this journal, kind of like how this lady here in the image has a little notebook next to her. All right. So, if you've had a chance to fill out the questions in the form, and if you didn't, it's okay too, but it's not scored at all. That is for you. So, you know, I I don't see it even as an assessment. I see it as a snapshot, and it really is simply to help you become acquainted with how your awareness is already moving through your experience. So, for many of us, and for many years, and you can find this elsewhere. Like there are so many classes about intuition, and oftentimes it's taught as assigning categories or labels. It's like when we talk about our clairs and all of that. And I'm not saying there's no value to that. I've taught a program on clairs as well, and I love that. But while those models can be, they're useful. I want to look at it a little differently, not as a separate um, way to look at things, but instead of beginning with categorizing, like how you perceive, how you receive information, what if we just go back to the basic of just, beginning with observation, and thinking about what is it that you already notice around you and what naturally draws your attention? Because I feel like there's a lot of wisdom maybe hidden in that, just in the layers of that. So, um, I want us to think about what forms our awareness already seems to take in our lives. So that personal sensing map is a way for you to think about that. And as we move through the lab, like I said, that map is a snapshot. You will likely, find opportunities to go back to that and reflect on that. And maybe by the end of the four, I know it's not consecutive weeks, but the four labs, you might notice some changes also in how in your own personal map. And again, not that there's a right or wrong way. This is simply understanding, and it's like you're observing yourself as well. Okay, so the other point, oh, chat, let me see. Oh yes, field. I like that too. I'm titling it field investigation. Um, if you think about it, we're like little scientists out in the field, right? And I actually love that visual. But it also aligns with what I've been writing about in a series field notes. Um, I will tell you that as I was building this program for this season, um, even just through the act of deciding what to focus on and creating the journal, I'm learning a lot also about myself. So we're all in this together. We're all investigators. So I hope that resonates, and thank you for that, Kat. One of the intentions behind this personal sensing map is for us to also recognize that, you know, our perception isn't the same for everyone. Perception itself is not necessarily the same for everyone. So we may all enter the same field together, but notice different aspects of it. Not that one is more valuable than the other. It's just that's part of what adds richness to it also, because we all have different signatures in the way we perceive and in the way we move, in our world. So rather than seeing those differences as right or wrong, precise or not. We can become curious about them because I think that it's in itself teaches us about ourselves, how we observe and how we perceive. I want to stop there and ask a question. Um, if you have completed it, I'd love to hear what stood out to you as you completed your personal sensing map and whether there was anything about it, that maybe surprised you. Anyone want to share? Or was it already things you knew when you completed it?
I'm trying to remember.
Hmm.
Um, it was really like, how do you know that you're in line, right? But it made me think like, man, Kat, you need to drop this thing of control. Like I have this thing with control. And it was really like if my external world does not match my internal world, it's like, I don't know. But in this journey, that's gonna happen when, your external world is not gonna match your internal world, And it just made me realize that, I got a thing with control, as we all do as humans.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my share.
Well, thank you. And thank you for sharing that because, some people are not even comfortable sharing that they want to be in control. You know what I mean? But that I think that is also I love that you shared that because that is part of I think what can be very valuable to us as we move through these next few weeks is learning. And maybe it's not always about control, but I think it comes back to that whole slowing things down a bit. And I'll share a story in a little bit that may perhaps will cement this a little more. Anybody else want to share?
I'll go.
Okay.
I think I was sharing with you earlier, Carla, that one of the things I hadn't really read about the one of the emails that you sent yesterday, but I was answering the questions on that assessment. And one of the things that stood up to me is like one of the things that why I was called to this is because I want to deepen my discernment. Because even though, and then I can only talk about me, like even though I know that we have to drop into our heart in order to observe and be have more discernment of situations and people and whatever we're going through. I always like I always have the human brain coming in and saying maybe that's not it, and we see a red flag, and then like in my case, I see a red flag and I'm just putting that red flag. It's just like a thing, right? That I know is I have a thing and I cannot put my finger on, but that's my intuition saying something, and I just doubt it. And then here comes another thing happen with the same situation, and it's like, oh, what I felt a week ago was right, but my human brain doubted it, right? So that's the one thing that stood up for me, because when I read your email after what exactly the this course is about, it's exactly what I've been looking for. Like the timing is so precise on what not just me, but I think as a collective are going through. That's just one of the things that I noticed yesterday when I was going through that assessment.
Mm, thank you. That's I love that you are seeing the timing, I think. It is to me one of the things I was also discovering as I was creating this. It's just the timing with the collective shift. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Anything else? If not, I will keep going. Oh, Jill, yes.
I love what yeah, everyone said. That's so me too. And then I noticed that my answers were just flowing. It was such a beautiful
Mm,
form, and I usually have to think about things, but I was not thinking. It was just like coming. So I really thought, wow, it's already doing it. And then was thing I noticed was that I think I'm more willing to like trust it or guess, if it's only impacting me, because I could like, make a mistake and it'll be okay. But if it's with somebody else and is involved, I really, really need to make sure that this observation or whatever it is going to be right, because I don't want to, it seems like it's too much responsibility to,
mm.
you know, make a mistake with somebody else's stuff.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Um, that's an important realization also, because part of what this is also um, meant to support is, like I mentioned earlier, our relationships with the people around us, or just the world around us in general. So thank you for sharing that. So this map it's not intended to tell you who you are, but it's meant to show you where you can think about it as beginning in this exploration, this collective, co-creation that we're doing. And by the end of the summer, I hope you'll see the landscape differently from where we started. So the the purpose of this lab is not to become like somebody else. It's honoring what you are already carrying and become more intimate with your own way of perceiving things. So, one of the things that I hope you'll notice over the next 4 weeks is that your personal sensing map is not fixed. So it's a living, think of it as a living landscape where your observations, as they deepen, your understanding of your own map might deepen as well. So I think the only thing you can ask is, or I can ask, is to be open to that. The next few pages are just they're tied to your, you don't have to answer this right now, but maybe if you feel like it, you can complete that on your own, because I already asked some of these questions, like what surprised you in answering those questions. So, oops, I skipped one. Yeah, so just thinking about your natural pathways of sensing. These are forms of noticing awareness, and it's really information you basically are thought through in the personal map. But I wanted to include that in your journal for you. I'm not going to spend time going through that so that we have enough time to play. Okay. So now that we've spent some time getting to know our own personal sensing maps outside of class, I want to begin our first week of exploration with the focus of observation and attention. The title for this week is very intentional. I chose that focus because I feel that before we can, truly explore intuition and symbolism and our shared perception, we first have to become better observers. And I know it sounds simplistic, but um, I hope you'll find as we work through these next few weeks that there's actually a lot of richness in that. Um, and when I say becoming better observers, it's not necessarily being observers of extraordinary things. A lot of times we assign a lot of fascination with things that are out of the ordinary, but it's important to become observers of ordinary experience, like careful observers of ordinary experience. So the field investigations or experiments we're doing this week is around that. One of the things that I've noticed over the years is that perception itself is often it's it's often not the difficult part. The difficult part is staying with what you've perceived long enough before explaining it. That was something I myself had to learn, because I don't know if it's a human thing, but we perceive something right away, we want to assign meaning. You see a symbol and right away you want to what it means, know what it means, know what the relevance is to your life. But often, maybe not even often, but if you think about certain things, when you stay with that perception a little longer before like rushing to conclusions or assigning meaning, um, you're more apt to like find the deeper message or meaning or relevance to your life when you slow things down. Um, and it isn't just with technology and social media that affects this, but we're living in a time where, we're constantly encouraged to, form opinions quickly, like respond quickly to things, explain things quickly, and decide what something means to us almost immediately. And it's not just your personal thing. I mean, I remember when I worked in corporate also, that was like the expectation. And as an introvert who likes to think things through, that didn't always resonate with me. So this lab invites us into a different sort of rhythm, like a slower rhythm, as I mentioned, where we notice first. Um, so as I said, this week the focus is pretty simple, but what I want us to do is to notice what draws your attention, notice what repeats, notice what surprises you. And that's really all we're practicing today. But I've been thinking about, again, like I mentioned earlier, distortion and how it's the conclusions that we sometimes hurriedly assign and attach to these things that contribute to that distortion. So this week we're just going to practice giving ourselves a little more space between those two things, between observation and interpretation. Okay. All right. We are So our first field investigation is pretty simple. Um, like I said, that is intentional. We're not trying to produce extraordinary experiences, but we're cultivating extraordinary attention. So if at any point during these 4 weeks you find yourself thinking, oh, nothing's happening, I want you to notice that also, because that's an observation. And if you find yourself thinking, I'm making this up, I want you to notice that. That's also part of the field. I want to emphasize that we're not only observing objects in this investigation, but we want to observe ourselves observing. So I hope that lands. Let's see. Okay. So let's start with this one. This first investigation is individual. We'll do partner work after this for the next one. But as I said, every experience begins with observation. So for this investigation, for about 5 minutes, I want you to choose an ordinary object around you. Just you can allow your intuition to guide you for what to pick. Yeah, but just like select an object. And I'm gonna I'm gonna do the same thing with you, but we're gonna have 5 minutes of uninterrupted time to observe whatever object you've chosen. But as you observe that, I want you to resist the urge to assign meaning and to interpret whatever you are observing. Um, Resist the urge to evaluate whatever it is. Just really focus on noticing. And there's space in your journal, or in your, if you have a notebook that you'd rather write in, you can do that. So let's see, where's my timer? Okay. Any questions before we start? No? All right. Does everybody have an object that they've chosen? What am I picking? All right. You guys ready? All right. I'll start the timer. And just like I said, um, just observe and notice and write down what that is. All right. All right. I accidentally stopped sharing my screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, so before we share our experiences, I want you to rate this question from a scale of 1 to 10. How difficult was it for you to remain in observation? 1 being least difficult and 10 most difficult. How difficult was it to remain in observation as you looked at that object? You can put it in the chat. There's obviously no right or wrong answer. I just wanted you to reflect on that. And you can either share or put it in chat. 4 for Kat, okay. 2 for Jill, okay. How about you, Carla or Betsy? So also 3 for Betsy and
I'm having trouble here. Carla, I didn't hear what the range was.
oh, just 1 to 10, 10 being the most difficult. How difficult was it to remain in observation in that exercise? 8, okay. So that's so interesting, right? So before we discuss what we observed, what did you think about what you noticed about yourself while observing? And you guys just wrote down your ratings. So like Carla, you rated it an 8. So there was some amount of difficulty there. So what did you notice about yourself while observing? Um, so I'd love to hear what you guys experienced in this first investigation. Anybody want to share what that was like for you, what the experiences was like, what you observed? Um, why don't you start, Carla? Because you said you found it difficult.
Well, I noticed that I
Hmm.
started giving it names to what I was observing. That's what I rated myself an 8. It took me a couple minutes to realize that I was doing that. And then when I started observing at the end of the exercise, I realized that I was questioning like for example, I'm looking at a scepter, right? And it has edges, and I started noticing the edges and how clear it is, but that's me giving names. And then at the end of the exercise, I realized that I was doing that. So I said, well, who says that it's clear? Who says that it has edges? Who says that it is ancient? So I started feeling. And what I noticed when I started feeling is just the energy that is going through the crystal while I am holding it, which it has no name.
Hmm.
It's
Interesting.
just a feeling. And how the feeling feels is just different to what I was naming it. I don't know.
And does that line up with your personal sensing map? Like your
Yeah,
how you perceive is
yeah,
feeling?
that's feeling. It's annoying that I
Uh-huh.
know. Like once, like I can say that I'm more aware now than before in how I do things. Like in this exercise, I started naming things and I started like writing the what I was looking at,
Mm.
but I wasn't observing.
Oop.
Is
Mhm.
I have no idea
Oop.
what's happening. Yeah, what is
It's like it's glitching or something. That was so
happening?
weird.
I have no idea what's happening. It's my computer is glitching. I do that. Um,
So funny.
Okay, here it goes. I don't have no idea. I literally, when that exercise finished, the call just dropped for me and I had to connect back. So I don't know what's happening.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so now
Huh.
it's glitching. It never happened before. Sorry.
Time to
So,
sage your. That's so interesting.
so,
Okay.
so yeah, that's exactly how I just have that knowing that what I'm feeling is in how it feels is true. And that's
Hmm.
exactly what I experienced once I became aware that I was naming what I was observing.
Hmm. Yeah. So thank you. Let me know if anybody else wants to share what that was like for you, but it's maybe you maybe you found your mind wandering. Um, so let me know if anybody wants to share. Jill, go ahead.
Oh,
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Well, I maybe I gave myself too good of a score because I was also
Yeah.
naming it, but I was like not evaluating or judging it. I was just kind of writing down there are three butterflies.
Hmm.
But it's this little ball I have. I can't see me, so I don't know. Can you see this little ball? But there's
Hmm.
like a
Hmm.
little cat in there. And I've had this, and it's literally on my desk. And I saw it, I think for the first time. Like I'm sure I was so surprised that there are three flowers, there are three butterflies. Like, and I had this realization, I think I might look at things just for like a second and then never even look at them again or something and just think I already know everything I need to know. But this was so, I discovered so many more things about this. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's I love that because that's exactly what we often don't realize until we really just focus on observing and not assigning meaning and not rushing to conclusions. Thank you, Jill. Kat, what was it that you wanted to share? How was that
so
for
I'll
you?
keep it short. I'm very literal. It's a gift and a curse. So it said ordinary object, right?
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
chose these, which is like
Okay.
but then I started looking at it. I'm thinking about who was I when I purchased these? And I was like, damn, I was
Ah.
such a different person. But then I looked at the directions and it says resist the urge to interpret. So then I was like, all right. So then I started looking at like the threading and then I saw this and I was like, oh, sacred geometry, cool. And but it definitely reeled me back in, especially the way that you worded this, because there's value in seeing things on of face value, but there's also value in seeing things, deeper. So it's
Mhm.
having the ability to dive in both. And this exercise was dope. So thank you.
Thank you. And that's true. There is value in looking at things on a deeper level. But the invitation for this, which is why I said resist the urge. And I loved your example because right away your mind jumped into what that means. And that is such a common thing, right? We assign meaning right away. But when you pulled yourself back, you began to notice little things that maybe you hadn't noticed before. And I think that in itself, recognizing when we want to jump to interpretation and jump to conclusion is a lesson itself, where I said to observe how you are observing. Thank you for that. Betsy, anything you want to share before we move forward? No? Okay, no worries. I will share just really briefly what I experienced because I looked at this. I just grabbed this. It's a little jade turtle, and I started writing down. I tried to be as objective as I could, and also resist where I my mind tried to go into interpreting it, like who gave it to me, the fact that it's jade, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what jade means. Like the properties, the spiritual meaning of jade, that sort of thing. But I was able to notice things that I hadn't noticed before, like the number of toes or fingers on the turtle, and I had to resist wanting to interpret numbers, how we when we see angel numbers. I'm like, oh, this turtle has 4 fingers and toes, not five. And then I had to resist thinking, I wonder if there's a meaning there. So thank you for that. I think this is a an example where, I wanted you guys to see just how quickly the mind wanted to complete the picture and assign meaning and interpret things. And that's part of what, we're studying. So let's see. Um, so in that exercise, we're not necessarily trying to become more certain. We're trying to be more observant. Before we go to, let's see. Oh, before we move into the next one, I want you to notice that, or you probably already noticed that there's a part, excuse me, there's a portion in the bottom of the page that says questions I'm carrying forward. So I have that at the end of each investigation. It's not something you need to answer during class. If you want, you can jot something down if you want to. But the purpose for that is just to think about how a lot of times we feel pressure to finish an experience with an answer. And one of the things that I want us to all get used to, I guess, or practice this summer is to allow questions to stay alive, allow good questions to linger. That's part of not rushing to interpret, because sometimes when we investigate things, I'll call it investigation because when we perceive things in our lives, really it's a form of investigation when we look at it, right? Sometimes that investigation doesn't leave us with clarity because it it's not something we sometimes it's not something we fully understand. We don't find the meaning right away, but it leaves us with curiosity, and there's so much value in staying in that curiosity. So those questions that you form when you're observing without rushing to conclusions, they become your companions. So they often help shape what you notice next about a particular object or an experience in your life. So maybe in that exercise you found yourself wondering, like, why did I notice the color before the shape of this object that I grabbed? Why did I feel, like Carla, why did I feel something in my body before I had an image of it? Or why did our cat, like, why did your interpretation arrive so quickly as to what that object was? So those are the types of questions that if any of those come to mind, feel free to put that in your journal as questions that you're carrying forward. And you don't need to answer them today. Um, in When it comes to research, a good experiment often doesn't answer a question, it reveals a better question behind it. That's the spirit of field research, if you will. So I think that when we explore our perception, it can work in the same way. So, and if you don't have a question at the end of any of these investigations, that's perfectly fine too, because sometimes what you're carrying forward isn't a question. Maybe it's just something, or the fact that you want to keep noticing. All right. So I'll end up by saying the purpose of carrying a question isn't to delay or postpone an answer. It's to remain available to that deeper observation. All right. So we are going to move on to, yeah, we're good on time. We're going to move on to the next investigation. So so this is where we move into partner work, but before we do that, I'm going to put you guys in breakout rooms. Before we do that, I want to emphasize that we're not trying to get it right when we do this. What we're going to do in the breakout rooms is similarly, you're going to take turns. One partner picks an ordinary object, but don't reveal it to the other person. You're going to spend, I can give you the link to the timer. You can just use whatever timer you have, but I think that 5 minutes is about right when we did that. So spend a few moments becoming familiar with it. As you're doing that, or maybe after just a couple minutes. I'll give you, I think this, how does 5 minutes, how did the 5 minutes feel as the individual? Was that too much time? I think part of what I learned also with that is like my mind started to become bored after a while. Five, okay, okay. So oh, what's that?
For me personally, I could have done less than 5 minutes
Ah, okay, okay.
because
So
my
let's
mind
do
starts
the
wandering. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the same thing. So let's say 3 to 5. You guys can come back. I can call you back to the break room or you can come back when you're done. But after that, you switch. The other partner will pick the object. So the key here, though, is you're not so as opposed to something like, let's say, remote viewing, you're not reaching out to that other person's um, space to kind of see what they're seeing. I want to make this distinction very clear. And you're not journeying, you're not astral traveling to another place to see what this other person is holding. What I want you guys to do is enter that quantum field together. Does that make sense? So that you both are entering this field of perception together and sensing on your own. You're going to make notes like you did earlier, your observation of what that object is. Um, of course, one partner, the one who, if it's your turn, if it's not your turn to pick the object, you don't have it in front of you. But I want you to feel into what your perception is telling you. And that can be a feeling in your body, that can be a vision, that can be, there's no right or wrong way. This is where your personal sensing map, I hope, like helped you figure out like how you tend to perceive. And we can do this for a couple. Please don't worry about getting it right because that is not the purpose of it. It's I think the clearest way for me to describe it is you both entering a field, like this field, or you can picture you both sitting next to each other and perceiving what's in that field. And you don't have to overthink it. Just be open and curious as to what comes forward. But I do want to make that distinction that unlike remote viewing, it's not like you're reaching out from elsewhere to pull something. Does that make sense? I just want you to be curious to see what comes forward. Yes, go ahead, Carla.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So like if I'm picking the item, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
showing the item to the other person.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. Not
that's all
until
I
not
need.
until the end. Not until the time
Okay,
is over. So when
okay,
that 3 to 5 minutes, you guys can decide on your own how long you want to spend on it. Because I think 5 is long, but that's completely up to you. At the end of that time, you're gonna reveal right here on the screen, reveal the object and then compare your experiences. And by that, I don't mean, oh, did I get it right? Because that's not the thing. It's not about getting it right. It's becoming investigators of perception. Notice what colors came through. If it is a color, maybe it's a texture, maybe it's a sensation in your body, maybe it's an emotion that came to you while the other person was holding that object. Does that make sense? Okay. I think it might be clearer also once you do it. And then after, you compare your experiences, then switch roles. The other person then picks an object. Sound good? Okay. Okay. And again, I'm not asking you to read the object. I'm just asking you to join. It's like I keep having this vision of like you entering the field together. It's like because it's like joining your attention and together observing the same thing. Just your suspend belief for a minute because you can't observe it without it physically being in front of you. All right, I'm gonna place you guys in breakout rooms just randomly. Assign automatically. All right. All right. Let's do this. So I think you should get an alert. Yeah.
That was so fun.
Ditto. Too fun.
Oh, I'm muted. I hope that was enough time. Did you guys have enough time to switch and all that? Okay. So, I see smile, so I hope that was fun. I am curious. I'd love to hear, and I hope you took notes also, like what kind of impressions came up? Like, did you notice colors? Did you notice emotions? Did you notice thoughts that just unexpectedly arrived? And maybe you noticed uncertainty also, but everything, all of that belongs in your field notes. Um, I'd love to hear whoever wants to share how that was because I didn't join your rooms. I didn't want to interrupt you guys. Who wants to share?
I can go first.
Okay.
It's funny. But so like when I heard you explaining sharing a field,
Mm-hmm.
I tried to get a feel on our dynamic. So I was like, okay, so what's your vibe? You know, do you like water? Are you bougie? Let's do matcha. Because I wanted us to meet somewhere. So
I love the way you think.
we were in Italy because we both like water. And I'm like, are we bougie today? Are we gonna have like, espresso? So we were in was it Positano? Where were we at? But anyway,
Well, yeah, I
we
think
were
you
in
said Sicily, and I had to tell you that's
Sicily.
like my maternal side is totally from Sicily. So you were very intuitive there.
Freaking crazy. So anyway, we had to meet somewhere so we could be in this field. And so we took turns. She had her thing and I had mine. But she had Hestia, I didn't even know who
Oh,
Hestia was.
okay.
Yeah. So when we tuned in, I was like, all right, and we were just like how we were. We were at the thing, we were laughing, we were joking around. I was like, all right, we gotta do this. We gotta do the assignment. So I told her to look at the thing, and I saw a pendant or a carving in a box. And then I got emotional, like, I don't know. And then I kept on
Ah,
hearing daughter, daughter, and then it was something important to her. And then I saw like the colors maroon and blue. And when she showed it to me, I was like, that's so crazy.
ah, I love
So
it.
dope.
It is because she has like, I mean, she's just bronze, but there's like a
Mm,
hat, like a veil on her head that is maroon. That's what Kat said, and then
Yes.
there's maroon fire in her hands. So it was
so
wild.
tell me about the emotion. Is there a story that did that connect to something, Jill, with Hestia? I will admit I don't know the intricacies
I didn't
about
know
this. I know.
either.
Yeah, I towards the end, if that's when you felt it,
Yeah.
I was thinking like Hestia, like she really did a lot, and it really kind of changed the world. It was very meaningful. So,
Mm,
like,
That's the feeling that I got. I
it
got
kind of,
emotional.
yeah. Yeah, I bet that was it. Mhm.
I love that. I love that you tapped into so that's such a clear example because you felt the emotion before without interpreting it, but you knew what was registering in your perception. So there's
Yeah.
Yeah. I just didn't know how to put that into words. So like, I don't know, I'm sorry, not to digress, but that's one of the things that I might have to work on. Like when I feel something, because I would have never have been able to explain it that way. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So anyway.
But that's also where that curiosity comes in and observing without feeling pressure to right away interpret it and just noticing. It's in the noticing that you'll see, oh, this feels this way. I'm feeling it. And sometimes, yeah, we don't have human words for it. But that's a step into later probably being able to interpret it. When you switched, how anything there that you want to share?
Yeah, well, can I just say one more thing about Kat? Is
Uh-huh.
that like she also I had three things that I couldn't choose from, so I was kind of not choosing. And she said, I don't know, maybe like a pendant. So this was the second thing I had to choose from. It's a dragon pendant. And she suggested water, and I had the mermaid tail. So
Ah,
you were like totally on everything, you know? So anyway, when we switched, I could feel it was like a round kind of thing of a round crystal, like, you know, Kat's crystals behind her, like a sphere maybe that had like the world kind of waves in it. And then I saw like a triangle and a tiny fork and a sugar cube. So I don't know, but then it was a statue. Show, it's so good.
ah,
It wasn't a sphere though, but
So
I mean,
it's my baby Kwan, and
ah,
she's on a dragon. You can't really see it. Sorry, I have really poor
uh-huh.
lighting.
No,
She's
I
on a
can kind of see it.
dragon, but she's on
Yeah,
water. You know,
right.
she's on
Kwan
water, and she's, because this crystal is shaped as a triangle. I didn't even know until she said that.
There you
Um,
go.
so I bought
yeah.
this in Chinatown in the city. Do you know that no one was gonna buy this? And sh I bought this for $50. This is more than $50. But anyway, yeah. This my baby.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
beautiful.
it. Oh my gosh, thank you. Um,
Yeah. I didn't feel that part, but I don't know. It just was I felt it was beautiful. So I guess that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, meeting in that central point helped us really. And I'm
yes.
glad that spirit gave me that idea,
Mhm.
Hmm.
So
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you guys did that. Because there weren't any rules around that, but that guidance that you got, it's like, yeah, because they're entering the same field together, and yeah, I love that. Thank you, Betsy and Carla. And how was it for you guys? And you guys have known each other for a while, so I'm curious. A lot of times when there's that connection, also, it's a different sort of dynamic. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Carla. So Carla picked the rose quartz. No, not sorry. It was rose. You can show your crystal.
It's a clear quartz rose.
Oh, okay, yeah, shaped as a rose. Okay.
Yeah, so I told her right away, I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna, I mean, I just, when I tuned in, I was like, let me tune into what how it makes her feel and how, like, how it makes whatever object she picked, how it makes her feel.
Hmm.
And so, I wrote down things like it's something nostalgic. It's also like maybe something that symbolizes like an accomplishment, something that brings her joy. I wrote down feeling proud. And then she said that, go ahead, she bought that right after her Reiki level 1.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so also, which I didn't think of because I was just looking at the item, right? Like my rose here, and I was just writing stuff, but I didn't really think about how when she said it's nostalgic and whatnot. And I said it was funny because roses have a big significance for me. It's my grandma's favorite flower. And then like I didn't even think about it when I was looking at the item, but like because probably we're in the field, like we're both in the same field, like Betsy picked up on other things that I wasn't even thinking of or like observing, but it was just like the meaning of what I was looking at, which it was really wild.
I love
Yeah,
that.
and when she mentioned that, like I immediately got emotional. So it's like to me that's like a hit, like, oh yeah, like I
Hmm.
was tuning into her remembering her grandma or that connection to her grandma. Um, and then for me, I picked a math book that I homeschool my daughter with. So go ahead,
Uh-huh.
Carla.
So on this thing, like I know I don't see anything, right? So I just kind of like what you said is I didn't know that I was gonna be able to pick anything up because, like you said, we're just entering the field at the same time. So I focus on how I know I perceive things, which is feeling. And instantly I got this feeling in my heart. And I started like observing where I was feeling the
Mm-hmm.
feelings or where I was feeling it. And like I started writing, like there's a vibration about this, whatever Betsy was looking at. And then I was like heart, like something with the heart. And then also my hands started like vibrating really hard. And then I felt this emotion in my heart, like nurturing, like something
Mm.
like I didn't really, I just put down emotion because I didn't want to name it, but that's how I felt, right? And then also I felt like something very grounding. And then yeah, go ahead, Betsy.
Yeah,
Show
so
your
I
item.
there's a I wanted to pick I guess I wanted to pick something that I had a lot of feelings towards. So homeschooling is
Mm.
very, very hard. My daughter struggles with the math, so there's a lot of feelings of like me, wanting to like make her feel confident about it and like helping her. And there's a lot of like responsibility um with the math and like trying to teach her. So definitely, yeah, lots of vibration, lots of feeling in there. Um, with the hands, right? I'm just thinking about it because we kind of ran out of time a little bit. My daughter, like, yeah, she's like always trying to use her hands to do the math, and so maybe that too. So yeah, and very interesting. And yeah, so very interesting that both of us tune in emotionally. Like we're both tuning
Mm-hmm.
in, like I think like empathy or clairsentience, clear empathy.
Clairsentience.
Yeah. Hmm.
But also it's very interesting that like for me, because I already know that I feel more than anything and I know what I'm feeling, that
Mm-hmm.
the intention of just tapping into Betsy's feel was actually for me to feel, right? And so that I think in itself it strengthens the signal.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you see how all of that, all the impressions that you guys are getting, what you were perceiving, that's all data. Think of yourself as the little investigator writing in your your little field journal. This is all data, and emotion is so powerful. So I love that in both rooms, you guys were tapping into that just by entering a field together. It's similar to and whether or not you do this in day to day or are aware of it, you maybe think of a time where you entered a room and you felt an emotion and you didn't understand why you feel a certain way. It's that energy in the room. And you won't always know right away, oh, why am I feeling this? So that it's data and you don't have to jump to conclusions, but you can take that information as what you're perceiving, and look at it objectively, and then maybe later on the meaning comes forward. There is value in also like slowing that down, the way you guys did, because I'll give a couple of examples. Like when I did a space clearing once and I entered a room and suddenly I felt this pressure and pain in my chest. And it only takes a few seconds, but I had to stop and think, is this mine? Is this feeling mine? Or am I perceiving something in the field? Because part of the thoughts that came to mind was like, oh, am I having a heart attack? But I take that if in just a few seconds, you can discern Is that yours, or are you picking up something in the field and then later on, figure out what that means? In my case, that turned out to be a procedure room that I was walking into, that I was clearing. And there's a lot of anxiety with patients who go into that room because they're there for procedures. So things like that. There's a lot of application in real life, and it's like training yourself to pause and observe, and knowing through your experience how you felt that, whether it was in your body, or a feeling or a sound, or a thought that comes in. Um, all of that, helps also shape and inform your personal sensing map. And this is where, the more you learn to observe and tune into that, you're, in my mind, you're strengthening your toolkit. Does that make sense? Okay. And let's see. So during the week, oh, we're out of time. I'm so sorry if we went over. I want you to ask just a couple of things before we end. Sorry if we went over, but after each class, I just want you to ask yourself the question, what surprised you today? And feel free to partner up again outside of class, or maybe do this with a family member, just if you feel guided to do that. I want to just leave you with the thought that, we often imagine that perception is about finding the right answer. So I hope you experience something different this time. And you saw how, even if you weren't aiming for certainty, there were matches. And that's part of the magic, is realizing, what that your perception actually was giving you valuable information as you entered the field together. So remain curious and notice what draws your attention. Notice the moments where you can stay with the observation just a little longer before assigning meaning to it. Always remember that, you don't have to force anything. This is part of becoming familiar with your own landscape of perception. So thank you. Before we end, I also want you don't have to answer me right now. I want you guys to let me know offline if the schedule it will work for you, because I know for a couple people there are some challenges with this. So if everyone is open to changing the date or time, because if you have a regular day and after work is better for you guys, let me know. And then we can communicate if a change is needed. I will also, I opened a little sub forum in the community forum. Kat, I added you because you weren't on there. So we can stay connected that way also in my community forum. Any questions before we end, or comments or anything? I hope you guys had fun too. And next week will be different. Each week is a different focus. So it's not like we're repeating this. So that's why I say, if you want to do it offline during the week, I encourage you to do that, to kind of have more fun with it. Anything before we close? Nope. All right. I'll send you guys the recording. Just look for an email for me, because I will likely put it in the community forum. I just needed to connect something that I hadn't done in there.
I just
All
wanted to say
right.
that was the most
Yes.
magical thing. It was super
Oh,
magical, and it was a vibe. So that's what I'm saying. It was a dope experience. Thank
I
Thank
love that. Oh, thank you. I just saw your chat. Thank you. And we'll have more fun in the other experiments, or field investigations. So, um, anyway, let's stay connected in the forum. I'll work out the schedule there also if we need to make some changes. Have a wonderful rest of the week and weekend ahead, and I will connect with you guys offline and see you guys in a couple of weeks.
you.
Guys.